I don't know why I'm laughing. Hey, Hawkeye fans, Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register with Tyler Tachman of the Des Moines Register. A lot to talk about after Iowa's 20-13 victory at Iowa State. Pretty typical, I would say, of a Hawkeye win. Defense has to kind of carry the weight. Of course, got 7 points of its own. Yet at the same time, Tyler, Iowa controlled this game from the moment Logan Lee blocked the field goal. And 3 plays later, Jazzy Patterson runs 59 yards. And it just felt like, Iowa was going to be hard to beat on this day. And it got a little closer than I know a lot of people wanted at the end, especially us. As I'm writing, I was like, good grief. Am I going to have to change the top of my story? But we didn't. Hawkeyes win. Hawkeyes are 2-0. What are your thoughts after your first Cyhawk game, Tyler?
No, I thought it was a good atmosphere. I thought it was the fans showed out, and it was a good time to be there. But I would say that kind of from the game aspect of it, I think it was a mixed bag, kind of like last week, where there's things that you could look at as positives and things you could look out as reasons to kind of be hesitant about this team. But I think that through 2 weeks, this team has shown more potential, far more potential than last season's team did through the first 2 weeks. And to me, that's kind of the most important takeaway, that it feels like this team has a real upside. It feels like they have a lot of room to grow. They can be really good. They're not there yet, but at the same time, you don't want to peak in week 2. You don't want to peak in week 6. You want that to happen down in November and December. So there's been enough traces, I think, of a team that's good. Now, there's things that they need to clean up. I think the offense needs to improve, because Iowa very easily could have shut the door on this game when they were up 20-3 in the third quarter, and they kind of let Iowa State climb back into things. But to me, I think Iowa has shown enough through the first 2 weeks to give reason to believe that they can achieve what they are hoping to this season.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point. I hadn't really quite thought of it that way before, that this team did show a lot of potential. I mean, you think back to just some instances of last year. I mean, just tons of sacks, tons of negative plays, just an offensive line that just struggled. But to me, yeah, I mean, Iowa State was loading the box after and just attacking after Iowa got up 10-0, 17-0. And knowing that Iowa was just going to try to lock this away. That's what Ferentz does, right? I mean, why wouldn't you, if you're an opposing coach, just say, okay, we're down 17-0, we're just going to attack the run, and Iowa has to run. It would be stupid to pass every play. And they did hit some shots later in the game. They got one to, hit with Luke Lachey on one for, I think, 15 yards in the second half, and then 23 to Eric All. It was something. It wasn't great. And then, frankly, I mean, Seth Anderson had a 91-yard touchdown available to him, but Cade McNamara did overthrow it. No question about it, and he's going to lose sleep over that one. So Iowa did keep throwing. It just, if they connect on that 91-yarder to Anderson, I know it's a big if, but again, like you're saying, Tyler, there's potential there. There's potential. These plays are there. The offensive line is protecting Cade. I thought that was another encouraging sign that this 2 weeks in a row now, the pass protection has been really good. And we'll talk about Cade's health, I guess, in a little bit. But those are some of the encouraging things that I saw, even with the offense, which I know people want me to rail on. But I don't think when you run 51 plays and Iowa State's like milking the whole fourth quarter clock to get those last 7 points, the offense really wasn't on the field as much to make plays. So anyway, I'm encouraged. I'm going to say that. And they're 2-0.
I think it's understandable after what fans went through watching last season. It's understandable to want the change to happen overnight, right? Like there to be immediate. Iowa comes out guns a-blazing, scoring 30, 40, 50 points. I think that's understandable to want that, but I think it's unreasonable to expect a change that might take a full season or more. It's not reasonable for that to happen in 1 or 2 games. So I think it's important to keep that in mind when you're just talking about the patience of a new group trying to work together. If we're having the same conversation, against Nebraska in the last regular season game of the year, then I think it's a different conversation. But it's still early, and I think this might not really be much of a surprise, but the identity of how I was going to go winning games this season is pretty clear. It's going to be a really good defense. It's going to be really good special teams, and it's going to be an offense that's good enough. It doesn't need to be a great offense, and I don't even think they were really. I put out a tweet that said they were average, and that was in like the third quarter when it seemed like they were going to score more than 20. But anyhow, they were good enough is the point. So I think that's something that's how I was going to win games. But I think the fact that they are able to do that and win the game, because they didn't do that against Iowa State last season. The offense was not good enough. So I think that if the offense can continue to get better, that's going to determine whether Iowa finishes with 8 wins or, is able to get to the Big Ten championship. I think how much the offense improves, because I think you would expect it. And I think, look, Iowa's defense, they lost Seth Benson, Jack Campbell, Riley Moss. It feels like if there's a step back, it really has not been by very much. It feels like Jay Higgins, Nick Jackson, Deshaun Lee, Xavier Wampa, those guys that you would hope to fill in those roles have done a good job. I think Iowa's defense can get even better, but I think the offense really is its ability to improve is going to kind of determine whether Iowa is really good or elite this season.
Let's talk about a few highlights, I guess, or significant players in this game. Let's start with Jazzy Patterson. That was a surprise. I mean, and he seemed surprised too that he was in the game. I mean, third play of the game, we're looking at a 3rd and 1, and we're like, oh my gosh, it is absolute QB sneak territory. What is going to happen here? Ferentz said no sneaks. Are they actually going to sneak? And lo and behold, they run counter to Jazzy Patterson. Connor Colby makes the best block of his life. Kirk Ferentz even made a comment about that. Those of you that watched the Chiefs-Lions game the other night, Ferentz made the comparison to Sam Laporta doing the same. What was it? David Montgomery, I believe, speaking of Iowa State, went into the end zone on a Laporta block, kind of coming around. And this was Colby, boom, crunches that linebacker, number 23. And Patterson was off to the races, sort of. He probably should have scored, but he kind of turned around and got caught. But 59 yards, sets up only 3 points, but still set the tone for the game. Jazz Patterson, 10 carries, 86 yards. He looks like a player, Tyler.
I think his running style might actually fit better with this offensive line, because the offensive line, and they weren't great against Utah State from a run blocking perspective. I think they were better against Iowa State, but Caleb Johnson is a real physical back that doesn't have as much burst. So if the holes aren't gaping, if the offensive line isn't able to open up these massive holes on a consistent basis, I think Jazz Patterson's style of being more explosive, being quicker, I think that might actually fit better, because he's able to hit the holes quicker. If they're open for a brief second, he might be able to get through there when Caleb Johnson isn't. I think I don't think it's anywhere near close to giving up on Caleb Johnson. I think he's still really important to the offense, his physicality that he brings. I would continue to stay with him, but I think for sure Jazz Patterson has made a case to be a bigger part of the offense, to get more touches. And I think he kind of adds more of a dynamic, quick element that LaShawn Williams and Caleb Johnson don't necessarily add. So I think it also kind of underscores just that Iowa has more capable weapons around, the offense than it had last season. So I think, Caleb Johnson is someone that can contribute, LaShawn Williams in the backfield, but then now Jazz Patterson, it feels like there's 3 guys that can really kind of have an impact. So I think for sure he's made a case to be a bigger part of the offense moving forward.
Yeah, and I think he will. I mean, you saw him on 3rd downs. He had a huge pass block on that aforementioned 23-yard pass to Eric All, where he took out 2 guys at once, and that's pretty good. You needed a 3rd down. You need a 3rd down back. They didn't, LaShawn Williams, I think, was maybe trending to be that guy, but, he had the heat-related issues last week, and then today he only has 1 carry for 3 yards, 1 catch for 2 yards, LaShawn. So it seems like his role is scaling back a little. Jazzy and going up. Caleb, 15 carries, 28 yards. So yeah, not great numbers for him, but he's still a very dynamic back. And I like what you said about maybe his run style is better right now in this moment for the Hawkeyes. Be interested to see what they do against Western Michigan. Other side of the ball, a guy that had a huge play was Sebastian Castro, and it was kind of it kind of stuck in Ferentz's mind, and I feel like it was a really good observation because anyone who actually watched to the end of the Music City Bowl last year saw Jazzy Patterson get a couple late carries and kind of look explosive. And at the same time, Sebastian Castro quietly had his best game as a Hawkeye in that game. Those are two guys that really used the Music City Bowl as a springboard. And man, Castro played great again, and then, of course, delivers the pick six. That was his first career interception, his first career touchdown. Sebastian Castro, Tyler, and I want to read this to you before I turn it to you because, it's only your second game on the beat, but here was my score prediction from the other day. It's in the paper. Prediction: Iowa 20, Iowa State 13. A big defensive play often swings this matchup, and Iowa has playmakers on that side of the ball. It's in the register.
That was you that wrote that?
Yeah, of course. I was on the show. I was on the show with you 3 nights ago, and I said 20-13.
Hey, I guess you know your
joking
stuff.
around. I'm just joking around. But no, Castro. We're talking about Castro. I just had to throw that in there, while I have a chance. But yeah, no, Castro. Castro said I read it all the way. Really playing at a high level right now.
Yeah, I think he seems like probably one of the more underappreciated, maybe underrated guys on Iowa's defense, and it's good to kind of see him make a big play that'll put him in more of the spotlight. But I think besides him, I think Deshaun Lee had another really good outing. And I'm kind of interested to see now with Jamari Harris coming back week 3 of what that dynamic is going to look like opposite of Cooper DeJean, because I think Deshaun Lee has made a case to be the guy there. And you also have to take into consideration that Jamari Harris hasn't played in more than he hasn't played since 2021. So he hasn't played for a while. I think Deshaun Lee has made the case. I think Nick Jackson had a good day, and you can really tell that. I mean, Jay Higgins, he's commanding the defense at a really high level at the linebacker spot, and that's where I think it kind of goes back to wondering if Jack Campbell and Seth Benson, obviously two really good players, is how much of a drop off is there going to be with them leaving, and it feels like there's been little to none. That Jay Higgins has been, just really strong in that linebacker position. But yeah, I think, Iowa's defense, the kind of returners, and then some of the guys that have been added into bigger roles. And I'd add Tyler Fisher into that mix as well, who's getting kind of being put in the rotation. But I think that Iowa's defense, and I think they can get better, but I think that they're kind of the way that the kind of pieces have come together has been impressive.
See, you got some commotion over there. I can see you across the way.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, there's some motion on offense. I gotta add. Eye candy.
The defense. Let's talk about that. I mean, Cade McNamara had a really funny quote. I think it was a good quote. I gotta find it here quick. He said, "Our defense is unbelievable. For them scoring points, I guess it's normal around here, but I'm not used to a defense scoring points." I don't think that's a shot at Michigan, but it's yeah, Iowa scores defensive touchdowns, and that is now 16 straight years with a pick six for this defense under Norm Parker / Phil Parker. So little hat tip there. I thought DeJean played better than anybody probably today. He definitely should have had a pick. Iowa's defense is so good sometimes that two guys are in position for a pick and ruin it for each other. So Xavier Wampa sort of got in Cooper's way for what would have been a pick, but Cooper with 10 tackles, he was just a monster. Even Iowa State media kind of around us were just like, wow, it's fun to watch Cooper DeJean, and he really is a dynamic player and a difference maker, and you can just see it on that side of the ball. Iowa's got difference makers. Logan Lee with the blocked field goal. Logan Lee had the pressure on Castro's pick six. I guess the one criticism, let's maybe just nitpick a touch. And I agree with you that Jackson played better. Kyler Fisher, had an increased role, 5 tackles. I think Jackson had 9 tackles. Higgins had 7. Quinn Schulte was great too. But no sacks for the Hawkeyes. So just 1 sack here, Tyler, through 2 games. You were a little bit hesitant about the D-line last week. And, I mean, they still played great. But you would like to see a little more pass pressure at some point.
Yeah, I think maybe, and I said this in the past, that maybe the Noah Shannon loss is a little bit bigger than we expected. At the same time, I mean, some of these guys that are playing that now are in bigger roles because Noah Shannon is out. Like Aaron Graves is still young, Jeremiah Pittman, Y.A. Black. These are guys that maybe just need a little bit more time to kind of get their their feet under them and get some playing action. But no, I think the Logan Lee field goal block, I think, is actually one of the more underrated parts of the game because it felt like it kind of set the tone early. Iowa State had that kind of first drive that was pretty methodical, and they actually picked Iowa's defense apart a little bit. And, it felt like surprisingly they were kind of able to make some headway, but then that block kind of seemed like it took away some of that momentum that Iowa State maybe quickly established. So I think that, Logan Lee, that might have been one of the more underrated plays of the game from a defensive standpoint. But and I think the special teams too was really good. Drew Stevens makes both field goals. Torrey Taylor was pretty good. I think that's kind of another underrated. It felt like
Punt coverage was great.
Yeah,
I mean, every
and
time
I
he
think
punted, they tackled him.
and I think the disparity between Iowa and Iowa State was pretty clear too. Like from a special teams standpoint, it felt like Iowa State was kind of not the most sure-handed in terms of returning. They almost had that one was crazy where it bounced right in the end zone, but it looked like it could have been a one. Like that would
Yeah,
have
I
been a
thought that was
disaster.
I thought that Iowa recovered that initially at first glance. But yeah, good points there. And then just I do need to point this out. Matt Campbell, the Iowa State coach, said he thought that is the best that Iowa State has played against Iowa in the 7 years that he has coached in this game. So, take that for what it's worth. He may have meant that from how they executed, who knows, as a young team over there. But still, that was what he said after the game, that this is the best Iowa State has played against Iowa. And obviously, it includes last year's 10-7 win, but that was a garbage game. I mean, both teams played bad, and Iowa State won. But, what was I going to bring up next? Kirk Ferentz, we got to give Kirk Ferentz a nod, right? 200 wins as a coach. So we knew that was coming at some point, and he gets it. No, no emotional press conference or anything like that. As I wrote after the game, it was just like a classic Ferentz win. You get ahead, you lean on your defense, special teams, and you kind of have to hang on for dear life at the end because you can't put it away with the offense.
Yeah, and I mean, he kind of downplayed it like during the week as well, saying it wasn't a big deal. But I mean, it was obvious talking with the players though of just their appreciation to be able to deliver that for him and kind of the relationships they have with him. Cooper DeJean said earlier this week and after the game that he would do anything for Kirk Ferentz. And I think that was just, it added to the emotion of the game really. And I think that's why that this win, even though it was ugly at times, uninspiring at times, that it showed kind of the early signs of maybe what I was capable of, because they were able to go into a difficult atmosphere in a game that had a lot of emotions, not only because it was a rivalry game, but also because it would be Kirk Ferentz's 200th career win. And, they were able to come out with a W. So kind of given the circumstances, and it felt like this was the type of game that Iowa should win, but it's the type of rivalry where crazy things can happen. And the fact that Iowa was able to avoid that, I think was, kind of in the larger scheme of things, an encouraging sign.
As we about to get to 3-word headlines here, but one of them, as I was kind of scanning through and you were talking, was PI now legal? Question mark. That was ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, and everybody agrees that was absolutely pass interference on Cade's lone interception. It should have been, 15 yards on the throw to Ragaini. I think Iowa State's coaches kind of griped about the earlier pass interference call, which was also obvious pass interference that converted a third down for the Hawkeyes, I think, on the touchdown drive, right? So, or maybe it was the touchdown drive. And anyway, but Iowa gets the pick six 2 plays later anyway. So anyway, let's get to some 3-word headlines. I marked some, so I will start with I got to go to my likes here quick. Kennington weighed in again. I'll have to get to those in a little bit. One of my early favorites was from Chris Bryant. Said all that jazz. I like that. I like that one. And then there was another one from Crapheads, who I don't endorse the screen name, but it was a good headline. He says, "Play that jazz." So a little Jazz Patterson love. This was let's talk about this. Michael Brown, State runs clock. I mean, what did you make of Iowa State just kind of patiently going downfield, down 20-6?
Yeah,
like huddling, like taking the play clock down to 5. What did you think of that?
That was head scratching because it felt like they, in a time where they needed to have a sense of urgency, there was really not urgency at all. And I mean, they ended up scoring, and you think that if, then there's more time on the clock because they stop Iowa, but it just felt like there was, I don't know if that was a lack of coaching or what, but that just felt like weird execution.
Yeah. Jared Kendall says another panic attack. You got to get used to that as an Iowa journalist and as an Iowa fan, just that you can't quite send in that story until it's all at 0. But usually Iowa does usually hang on. That's what's kind of reliable about Ferentz, but it's not always pretty.
I'm noticing a parallel between covering Indiana basketball and Iowa football. I think both of them probably aren't good for your health to watch. They're just gonna get the anxiety running, and probably like doctors would probably advise against it, but here we all are still.
Yeah. Peter Boylan, cyclone warning canceled. How about this from Roger Kuznia? There was a lot of Brian Ferentz ones, but let's talk about this for a minute. Roger Kuznia says 6 behind pace. That is correct. Iowa has 44 points through 2 games, so 22 points per game. They need to make up 6 points
next week
on that 25.
Week is a big one.
Yes, it is, because Western Michigan lost to Syracuse today, 48-7, and gave up nearly 500 yards of offense to the Orange. So, opportunity, man, next week. I feel like it is a good spot in the schedule. Yeah. After this rivalry game, I've said this many times, I think the schedule plays out nicely for Iowa. You get this highly emotional rivalry game, and now you get, we can say it. The players are never going to say it, but you get a little bit of a breather before you go to Penn State next week.
And I don't think that it's like out of the realm of possibilities for, if you hope that Iowa's offense keeps improving, it's not like they're going to be playing Ohio State, Michigan back to back. Like I think the teams they're playing, there's room to put up points. Like your Northwestern, your Nebraska, your Illinois. If the offensive unit can keep getting better, I don't think, it's not going to be back to back to back elite defenses. So I think there is room still to put up more points in the Brian Ferentz drive to 300.
Morgs, one of our favorites, says defense is life, and that is very true for the Hawkeyes. More so than punting is winning. But I did mention Kennington Smith, who's covering Alabama. I believe he's covering a loss, is he not?
Yeah, Texas just won. So.
Okay, so there was a headline about Caden Proctor still settling at Alabama. They're 1-1 and Iowa's 2-0. But here's Kennington covering Alabama. I know he's busy. Pick 6 University, good one, buddy. Jazz is him. And then this is kind of cheating, but it's like a little bit of accurate, whatever you want to call it. 2-0 greater than 25? ? Good conversation, right? 2-0 is a bigger deal than 25 points per game right now.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about this, I guess, arrangement is that what if Iowa loses one game and they don't score 25 a game? Like, it's hard to argue that. I mean, I'm sure the offense could be better if they don't average 25, but if you only lose one game, then it feels like that would be kind of a harsh way to go about things if the team does that well. But yeah, I think that's an interesting dilemma to track.
Yeah, last one I'll read is Bizarro Max says Cade still standing. He also said Hawkeye State again, but Cade's still standing. Let's talk about that. I thought it was interesting. I listened to the pregame show with Kirk. He said Cade was in better shape this Friday than he was last Friday at this time, which is very encouraging after what we it was a little bit dicey this week, felt like in the pressers, what he could do. And Cade says no setbacks from this game. And I thought he looked fine. I mean, he's not going to scramble at this point, but now you get another week to keep him healthy, to get him, working back to health. And I felt like that was one of the most encouraging things today, Tyler, that Cade comes out of this game. I thought it could be one of those things where this is a tough defense, but he came out of it fine. He was well protected, only sacked once, really didn't hardly get touched.
And credit to the O-line, because I think through 2 weeks their pass protection has been exceptional. It feels like they've given a lot of time for him. I think that the run blocking still needs work. It seems kind of more hit and miss, but I think the pass blocking has been really good. And given kind of his injury situation, I think that that's really promising. And, I think part of the issue last season was that you had an immobile quarterback with the offensive line that wasn't good. And now, I think Cade is more mobile than Spencer Petras, even when he's kind of hampered with the injury. But I think the pass blocking has gotten, leaps and bounds better than last season. And I think, hopefully the game next week is one where Iowa can pull, if you're Kirk Ferentz, you hope that Iowa can pull out to a lead and you can rest Cade McNamara. You can get Deacon Hill some reps, maybe Joe Labus. So maybe it's one that you hope that you don't necessarily even need to have them out there for, more than a half or 3 quarters.
Yeah, and I guess we should probably wrap up. It's almost been a half hour, but the rest of the Big Ten West does not look great. I mean, Wisconsin it looks like it's rallying at Washington State, but they were down big before. Nebraska looks terrible. Northwestern did win today, but Illinois loses at Kansas last night pretty handily. You just don't see a lot out there in the Big Ten West. It's there for the taking for the Hawkeyes right now. I mean, it's 2 weeks in, but again, that's what we're saying. Feel encouraged. You're 2-0. You're not 1-1, and you get Western Michigan. Then you get to take your shot at Penn State. Everyone thinks you're going to lose. That's not necessarily a given with this defense. I see potential.
I think Penn State is going to be just like, there's really nothing to lose for Iowa. Like, I think you can go swinging for the fences. If you lose, not many people expected you to win anyways. If you go up there and win, then it's kind of like a massive statement. Like, I think, Iowa's for real. The chances of getting, I think it would validate their hopes of getting to a Big Ten title and even competing in that game and winning. So I think that Penn State game is like, and now we're kind of looking forward, but that Penn State game is a great opportunity for Iowa just to swing out of its shoes and try to win, because there's not much for it to lose. I think there's much more for Penn State to lose, given that it's a whiteout at Penn State at night. It feels like everything's in Penn State's favor. So if you're Iowa, you got to be playing. I would think you'd be playing loose and just, swinging for the fences.
Sorry, I was typing a message to Dargan there. That's it. That's all I got. Tyler, we got to get out of here. They're starting to close down a little bit. We're one of the last couple here. So check out our coverage at Hawk Center. We're loaded up. And if you want to read anything from the Cyclone perspective, Randy Peterson, Travis Hines, Alyssa Hurdle have everything from the Cyclone locker room as well. Tyler was fun. Enjoyed it. We did not get stuck in traffic as much as some of our colleagues. We got lucky. It was a mess up here. I'm always glad when this one's over, not in any negative way. It's just such a circus up here, and not in a bad way. It's nice to kind of move on. So Hawkeyes move on as well. They're 2-0. Kirk Ferentz win number 200. A good day for the Hawkeyes. Hawkeye fans, enjoy this one. Don't gripe about it. Enjoy it. That's my message to you. Last year sucked to lose 10-7, right? So enjoy this win. You dominated the game. The score may not look like it, but Iowa was in control. You won the game, 2-0. moving on. I'm repeating myself. Tyler, good to talk to you. See you in the car.
Yeah.
For Tyler Tachman, this is Chad Leistikow saying so long. Thanks for joining.